Welcome to the Redeemed Vision podcast, where we bring sight to the blind and freedom to those enslaved by our pornified culture. Here, we dive into hard but important topics, such as pornography, sexual identity, true freedom, real love, and living marriage well. Go deep with us as we uncover what Redeemed Vision means for each of us living in the world today. Come to know yourself, the power of redemption through Jesus Christ, the joy of laughter, and how to live in gratitude and wonder. This is Redeemed Vision.
Greetings and salutations, and welcome to another edition of the Redeemed Vision podcast. I am your host, Steve Pokorny. It is an honor to be with you. And as a reminder, please like, share, hit that button, whatever you got to do to get the word out about this work. This message today is going to be very impactful. And before we get into our guest for today, just a reminder, I encourage you to take a look at My Catholic Will, where you know that you can't take it with you. So why not leave it with those who can benefit most? If you go to mycatholicwill.com/freedom coaching, you can write your will for free in as little as 15 minutes. And if you are so inclined, please put us down, Freedom Coaching Foundation, Inc., as a beneficiary, as we can certainly use those gifts to help further this work in the future. And also, the work of Redeemed Vision podcast is supporting freedom coaching, where it's one-to-one mentoring designed to break the attraction to pornified images through a transformation of mind, heart, and vision. And I encourage you to head over to our website, click the very top link. There is a freedom score quiz, where in that quiz, it takes about 2 minutes, you'll be able to rank 4 key areas of sexual integrity, which will help you know exactly what areas of growth are needed. And the self knowledge can be very empowering. So don't just quit. Be transformed. Break the power of pornography. Visit freedom-coaching.net and be set free today. And if you like the Redeemed Vision podcast, if you like what we're doing, I encourage you to take to prayer. And if God has put in your heart to support the mission of Freedom Coaching Foundation, Inc., this podcast, Freedom Coaching, various other speaking endeavors, as well as other programs that we are putting together, all run through this foundation so that we can support many people in finding genuine freedom and to live their best life that God calls them to this. So with that said, we're going to get into a very, very beautiful, beautiful gift of the subject of art and sculpture. And today I am joined by Gabriel Akre. And he's a sculptor, he's a teacher, he's a lover of beauty. Gabriel has spent his life helping others recover and rediscover the gift of seeing reality through the lens of art, culture, and the Catholic imagination. In a world that so often distracts us or dulls our senses, Gabriel invites us to slow down, to notice, to let beauty reveal the truth. In our conversation today, we're going to explore how art can sharpen our vision, awaken our hearts, and draw us closer to the one who is beauty itself. Gabriel Akre, welcome to the Redeemed Vision podcast. How are you?
Hi, I'm great. Thank you very much for having me. I'm excited to be here. And thank you. I'm good.
It's an honor to have you. We like to say that anything worth doing is worth doing poorly, because this is not our first go around on this, and we will make best of it. It's like creating art. And when you mess something up, well, you create something new and create something hopefully even better. So we're going to find out what happens with this. So
perfect.
Awesome. So, Mr. Gabriel, do you have a dad joke for us today?
Yes, I do. I've come prepared for this esteemed podcast, and I have a dad joke that I would like to offer for the consideration of the viewer. This is actually my dad's joke. I got it from him, so obviously it's bona fide. Yeah, and if it's not funny, then it's not my fault. So here it goes. a skeleton. Okay, a skeleton. He walks into a bar, and he says to the bartender, "Can I get a beer and a mop?"
Right
The
on.
whole joke. That's skeleton wants a beer.
Thank you. Gabriel will be here all day. Please make sure you tip your waitress. I love it.
Yeah,
I love it.
That's about the response that joke usually gets, and that's good.
Gabriel, did you hear about the sculptor that broke up with his girlfriend?
No.
Well, she said he was a little too stone cold.
Ouch.
I think
Yeah.
yours was better. I think yours was better. All right.
No,
anyway,
hey, that was good. That's good. It's it's accurate, maybe. Artists are like the material way.
Moving from there, right? Gabriel, can you share a little bit about, because you're coming from Florence, Italy. What is it like? Because you're originally from Indianapolis or Indiana.
Yeah.
What is it like, and when did you make the move over to Italy, and what is it like for you as an artist living in, I would argue, one of the hubs of art for the Western world?
Yeah, well, it's beautiful. It's a beautiful city. So like you said, I'm living in Florence. I've been here for 4 years, and I'm going to continue to stay here for however long, not really sure, at least 1 year, maybe more. I'm from Indiana, so Indiana is very flat, very not much to speak of in terms of its landscape.
Yes.
But it's a good place as well, of course. Florence is great. Florence has a lot of incredible history, beautiful artwork to be inspired by, and really, it's like totally different from where I grew up. Beauty everywhere, on every street corner, and even though right now I would say, like, unfortunately, there's a in terms of faithful Catholics, there's a lacking, but the city itself is still extremely Catholic because of its just the architecture itself, like the art that's there, the history. You can walk down the street corner and walk down the street, and on the corner, even outside, there will be like a Madonna and Child on the wall. So that's pretty cool. Yeah,
that is wonderful. I have had the privilege to live in Rome for a little bit, and to be able to spend some time in Florence, to be able to go to the Uffizi Gallery, and to take in some of the grand masters of art that has basically helped to define, in many cases, Western civilization. So what a gift that you're there. What a gift to be speaking with you today. So let's go back. I want to go back just for a minute. Go back to the beginning of your life, in a certain sense, the household you grew up, right, with your parents and with your siblings, if you have them. What was the message about art? Or where did you pick up about art growing up?
So I do have siblings. I have 6 siblings. My brother-in-law, so big family. Sorry. Yes, big family. I guess I would say my mom instilled a lot of my love for art. She wasn't so much an artist herself, but an appreciator. My grandparents, 2 of my grandparents were. My father's father was a wood carver, and beautiful craftsman. And then his mom was a painter. They both did very stylistic, ornate Norwegian style carvings and paintings. So I think there's some family lineage. And then, I don't know, when I was growing up, I would go to the Art Institute of Chicago a lot, because I live only like a few hours from Chicago. So the Art Institute was probably the main place that I was able to develop a love for art as a young person. I don't know. And then just a love for beauty in general, beauty in all ways. I mean, my parents, they rose as Catholic. I'm, cradle Catholic. And so aside from like art specifically being around the house, the idea of beauty was present. You know, truth, goodness, and beauty. That was always present growing up, I would say. So, I mean, that just coincides to art pretty closely.
Awesome. Actually, and staying in growing up land, shall we say, what was the first piece of art that you remember creating as a kid that made you think maybe, you know, I could do this forever?
I would probably say when I was really little. I mean, I don't know how what all that was. Maybe seven or something. I did like I was really proud of it. It's a cheesy drawing, but I did a drawing in colored pencil of my 2 stuffed animals. And so like as early as 7 or 8, I remember distinctly being proud of the drawing. Like I thought it was good and I liked it. And so I kept sort of chasing that feeling. I did a series of small paintings. Like for my 10th birthday, I got some painting kit and I did like 15 paintings of random things, also stuffed animals, also waterfalls, buildings, sunsets. As an early artist, I gravitated more towards painting and more towards landscapes. And that stayed on for a long time until eventually, I mean, now I'm a sculptor. Just to point out, this is one of my pieces in the back here.
Yes, please. Can you talk about that, please?
Yeah, sure. I just have it on display here just for the sake of visuals. This is a sculpture that I made while at the Florence Academy of Arts, which is where I studied. I finished studying there last year. It's a 3-year program. They teach academic classical figurative sculpture and painting and drawing, but I went for drawing and sculpture. So it's a half-life size female standing figure, and it was an exercise, but even in terms of an exercise, when you're doing like just for learning, just how to learn in a school, you can try your best to imbue some spirit into the work, which is harder than the exercise itself. This behind me is not my painting. It is a that happens to be in my bedroom because I'm literally just renting this apartment, but the apartment comes with the antique painting. So that's cool.
That is amazing. I don't think you would see that kind of art here in America, or let alone rent this apartment and you have this amazing, hundreds of years old piece of art hanging on the wall. That's astonishing, and I love the work. And for those who are listening to the audio version of this podcast, you're going to have to put on the visuals for this, because that is an astonishing piece of sculpture there. And actually, we'll come back to obviously your work with sculpting, because this is your canvas, shall we say, that you like to work with. But I would like to get controversial for just a second.
Okay.
In the art world, right? Especially as we get into the modern, modern and postmodern understanding of art, laissez-faire, anything goes, right? There is no real objective truth. There is no objective beauty. So, putting you on the spot, Gabriel, what is beauty and what is ugly? No pressure.
Yeah. Well, yeah. Okay. I guess we're starting the podcast off with a bang, because that is a tough question. And I would posit to say that it's been a subject of controversial discussion for thousands of years. So that's great. We can definitely talk about it. I have some thoughts about beauty. I'm not going to try to claim that I'll be ending any age-old disputes right now, but what is beauty? It's very important. Even I've been to a few art schools, and I went to one art school that was more modern, and it was focused on art of all different kinds. And the thing that stuck out to me was we never really spoke about beauty in this more modern art school. Now we do in the more classical art school that I went to, but the art was about other things, about statements, about being political, about doing something different, being avant-garde. And maybe some people would talk about beauty, but always in such a subjective way. Beauty is in the eye of the beholder, people will say all the time. You'll hear that. But I happen to think that beauty is objective. And I mean, you just said it yourself too. I think that's definitely comes from a religious background to have that opinion. At least it does for me. So how I think of beauty, I guess I'll just start like really broad. This is how I think of beauty. I think of it in the same way as you can talk about like good and evil. So you can think ontologically. So getting into theology a little bit, this is not my forte, but I have just like a little tiny smidgen of theology. So if I'm getting this right, ontology is the study of being. And so you have like what is and what is not. And so God is, like in a very broad theological way, God is. And then you have things that are far away from God or step away from God, are not like God. They reduce in their being, you know. So things that we call evil are not evil in its own right. It's just less good, you know, non-good, because God is and God is good. And so if you have evil, you have something that's not good, you know. Is that more or less correct?
Yes. No, you're nailing it. Keep going.
Okay,
You're doing great.
So I think about beauty in the same way, because God is good and he's truth. And so that which is not of God or is not God is false. But you could say the same thing about falsehood as you could about evil, that it's not its own thing in itself. It doesn't have ontological reality. There is truth and then there's untruth, you know, there's goodness and there's ungoodness. And so I think with beauty, it's the same thing. It's objective because it's God and God is objective. And so if you have beauty here on one end of the spectrum, you know, for lack of a better visual, beauty, and then I would say like that which falls away from or walks, you know, goes away from God, goes away from beauty, becomes less beautiful, and we could call that ugly. I think that's more or less a decent way to think of it. You have beauty and then you have unbeauty, which is to say of God or not, you know. And so I think that's pretty broad. That doesn't give us that gives us some to work with, but you can't really answer every specific little question in terms of specifics with just that. Like if someone asks me, is this work of art beautiful? Not any here, but like if they look at take any work of art in the world, whether it was in a modern art museum or not, or a classical art museum, and say, is that beautiful? Well, it's going to be hard to answer that question. Like, is this beautiful? Maybe it has some beauty. Certainly everything has some amount of beauty if we're going to think of it in terms of ontology, because everything is at least a little bit good, even if it really sucks. Everything's at least a little bit true, even if it's mostly false. So I think you can think of things in terms of how beautiful they are. And certainly there are some things that actively try not to be beautiful, that actively try to be ugly. And that's sometimes some people's intention, which is very odd to me. So I think that's more or less a decent enough definition for beauty, which is to say God is beauty. How's that?
Clear as mud. See, we are pondering profound mysteries here on the Redeemed Vision podcast, and nothing less with Gabriel Akre here. So, and yes, I nailed your last name. So here we go. I'm redeeming myself. Welcome to redemption here. So let's build into this. If beauty is connected to God, right, and there's an ontological reality to what beauty is, right? Why would you say beauty is so important? Why have you given yourself over career-wise to this pursuit of beauty?
Yeah, well, I guess I'd say that beauty is just that transcendental, which happened to appeal to me the most. You have goodness, truth, and beauty, and beauty just always stuck out to me, you know. I mean, you can have someone who's really captured by truth, and they might become a lawyer, or they might become a writer, or they might become a teacher, and they want to embody the truth aspect of God's being as much as they can and pursue that. Someone who's really attracted to goodness, you know, to take the other one, they probably go into social work or feeding the hungry or being a really good person professionally. There are certain jobs that are like, I'm a professional good person, you know. I donate my money. I raise money for people. I I'm the person on the float to go get the food to the hungry people,
Yes.
So I've just always been drawn by beauty, attracted by it. And so I think that my choice to be an artist is less my choice, but more my calling. That's how I see it, chosen for me in that way. And then the reason that it's important, why beauty is important, is because God leads with beauty often, I think. And I can't remember where I got that from, but someone else wiser than myself said that once, that God leads with beauty. He draws us in. The Lord is the bridegroom, and he's beckoning us, and he's whispering sweet things to us and trying to get us to follow. It's like in a cartoon, and you have the good smell, and then the guy floats,
Yes.
floats up into the air and then starts following the smell. It's like, that's how God's trying to woo us. And so, I mean, that's certainly been the case for me. I've been wooed with art mainly. And then you get into it, and then you find the goodness, and you see, wow, this is not only beautiful and appealing, but it's also good. And then finally you find that, oh, this is also true.
Yes.
Like, this is also correct. And that's rad too. So that's important.
Okay, I'm going to jump in here because I think this is wonderful, and I would put in the other transcendental with this is that of unity, right? Truth, goodness, beautiful, and unity. Whatever is true, good, and beautiful, we want to unite ourselves with it, right? We see a beautiful woman as a man. There's some on part of me a desire for union there. I'm married 16 years. Don't worry, I'm not breaking any marital vows here, but there's still that calling of beauty. Wow, that's a beautiful woman. Right there, and so I like to say the language I've heard is there's no defense towards beauty of beauty. When we see something that is beautiful, right? St. Thomas Aquinas would use beauty as that which pleases, which evokes this pleasure. It comes out of us, right? And for those who are very rational thinkers, that's a little too hoity-toity or artsy-fartsy or whatever, but there's a deep truth there, right? That it's something that evoked. I can't explain it fully, so we're going to try to articulate. I like to use this phrase: "Beauty is useless," but it's useless. It does nothing for me. It doesn't pay my maybe Gabriel.
This is debatable. We could debate this, but please go on.
No, I'll bring that, please. Yeah, I put it this way, right? Beauty is useless, but without beauty, the soul shrivels up and dies.
Yeah.
Right. I like to use this example. I use this with clients frequently. In my bedroom, there are 6 throw pillows. Okay. They have no functional purpose whatsoever. But I do know that if I try to legitimately remove them permanently, my wife will murder me. So beauty saves my life. Okay. So it sounds like you have a little tweak on that little statement of beauty being useless. I'd love to hear it, please.
Yeah, well, I mean, I think you'll agree with this, and you more or less just, gave the caveat. And I know what you're saying. What you're doing, you're trying to make a point and bring a certain quality to the attention of whoever you're talking to. But beauty is useless, utilitarianly speaking, if we were only animals. So that's that would be true. If we were just animals who only needed food and shelter and warmth, then it would be useless in terms of survival. And even not even survival in its fullest sense, just physical survival. But I would say that beauty and art are actually necessity, as necessary to us as food for human beings. So if you're a human being with a soul and you have the capacity to see God, experience love, then I think that there's a lot to be said about how if you don't have access to beautiful things in your life, then your soul will shrivel and die, which is what you just said. And a really cool little thing to prove this is this amazing fact that I love about John Paul II. So when Pope John Paul II was just a priest in Poland during World War II, what he did to combat communism and the overtaking of Nazis and all that stuff was his big rebellion was to have underground art scenes where people would just do theaters and play and write poetry. That was John Paul II's combat against the horrible World War II overtake art. So that's amazing. So
no, let's go right there. I've had the privilege to go to Poland, and I like to, at least this was many years ago when I was visiting, the difference between Krakow and Warsaw. Warsaw being the capital. Warsaw was where communism reigned for a long, long time. There's, from what I understand, there's still vestiges of seeing this there. Very square, very the same type of structures. Very bland, not much color. When you go to Krakow, Krakow is teeming with life. It's gorgeous. It's dripping. I would want to live there. I would want to move there and enter in there, right? It's a gorgeous, gorgeous place there. And I think this is where Gabriel, I think what we're hitting on is this notion of, right, we need this to fill us. Why? Because as a human being, we are not mere animals. We have a soul. We have a spirit. It is connected to God, and that cries out. And when we do not have beauty around us, I like to use the term, we feel thinned out. At least I do. I feel thinned out. Something's missing here, right?
Butter spread over too much bread. That's
yeah. No, yeah, that's well said. Or just eating sugar all day, right? It's not going to get us. A little bit of sugar, a little bit of gelato. We're going back to Italy together, right? That's good, but when it's too much, we're missing out. We need some substance here, right? I think that's what's really important. So I want to go into this because Gabriel, your motif, if I'm using that correct language, or your canvas, I like to say, is that of sculpting. How did you get into sculpture? How did you move towards that, saying, like, I want to dedicate this aspect of art? It's kind of like a doctor. What form of medicine are they going into? Why this form of art for you?
Yeah, it's a good question, especially because I didn't always do sculpture. I started out doing painting, and I even went to college at an art school in Indianapolis where I studied painting. I took some sculpture classes there also, but they weren't figurative. And so I mostly focused on painting, and I was mostly doing landscape painting. I really loved it. It very much appealed to me. I really can only answer these questions with just like saying that this is where my whims took me, I guess. Like, this is just, I just listened to my heart, and I listened to what I am gravitated towards, like what draws me in. And for a long time, what drew me in the most was the beauty of a sunset. And sunsets obviously still capture my heart, but I don't know, there was a particular time when I just, like, the most beautiful thing I could ever see was a sunset. And so all I wanted to do was paint landscapes, sunsets, and then mountainscapes and water, and things of that sort. But then when I studied abroad in Italy, here in Florence, I studied abroad when I was in college, just for like a semester, which is a good amount of time. And I was living here, walking around, and Florence, Italy is just the perfect place for sculpture, especially for figurative sculpture. Rome as well. And Rome is only like an hour and a half away. So walking through Florence and Rome and seeing the great works of Donatello, Bernini, Michelangelo. Also, I'm really fond of Rodin, who you can see a lot of his works in America, actually, in Chicago and Philadelphia, and in Paris, which I've been. So these sculptors are probably the primary influences, but many besides. And I would just look at them, and I would just be drawn in. And there's some quality about them that really spoke to me. I kind of look at the difference between painting and sculpture like this, and this is just a personal way that I explain it to myself, I guess. I feel like painting draws the viewer in to the painting itself. Like, this is a painting, and I'm drawn into it because it gives you a space, it gives you an area, and there's a suspension of disbelief that there's a depth here. So it draws you in. I feel drawn in when I look at a beautiful painting. Whereas sculpture, on the other hand, it like confronts you. It comes out into your space. It's almost like aggressive. Some of the beautiful sculptures that I love have this aggressive quality. Like they're effective. And maybe aggressive is the wrong word, but they come into your space.
Art is aggressive. I think that's fascinating.
In a good way. it comes into your space and it confronts you and it makes you confront it and have to think about it. Plus just the way that you can walk around a sculpture, it makes for a lot of beautiful designs. And then finally, I don't know, there's that sort of cheeky idea that it's clay and I'm breathing life into the clay, and that's kind of cool. And I think also when you're doing something figurative, not to say anything negative about the figure painting, because it's amazing, but figure sculpture, it's more the figure, you know, because you get the fullness of what a person is, like the human body. You get it, it's there, like it's in the round. It's not a two-dimensional version of it, you know.
I love this, Gabriel. I kind of want to just sit in your brain and kind of just take it in, because this is it is utterly fascinating. It's been said that those who can't teach, I can kind of teach a little bit about art in what we do. You clearly are doing it, which is wonderful. And I want to drive into a really important subject, especially for the subject of our podcast. You work with nude figures. You've worked with nude models, and we have had on our podcast Father Thomas Loya, who is in the Chicagoland area, and he has worked when he was very young with nude figures. And as a Catholic, this may be scandalous to even think that you would be around naked people. And especially so commentary there, but also on this notion, because pornography has influenced so much of the world which we live in. Clearly in America, it's definitely there in Italy, in Europe, and even I would argue it's worldwide. How would you qualify that the work you're doing is not pornography, and maybe even be so bold as to say this is one of the antidotes to pornography?
Yeah. Yeah, it's a great question. It's a great topic. This could probably be the crux of our conversation. Yeah. I'm familiar with Father Thomas Loya. I've seen a few of his videos and read an article, but I've never met him. He seems cool. Yeah, so I work with the nude figure sometimes. I mean, not all the time. Sometimes I'll make a sculpture with drapery, but you have drapery, you have a nude, and the one behind me here is a sculpture I made in school with a model in the middle of the room, and there was a few students around, and there was a teacher who'd come, and they teach you how to sculpt the figure from life accurately. So there's a lot of things to say. I mean, just at the base level, the validity of studying the nude figure is to learn the human anatomy, to learn the body, to learn how to make figurative art beautiful. Even if you're going to make a sculpture of a person with drapery on, if you don't understand anatomy and the interior structures of the body, you're not going to do a very good job. Like even wearing a shirt, there's anatomical points that show through the drapery that are really important. So if you don't know that, you're not going to do very well. So for one, it's just purely technical. But for another, in terms of art, or like artistically speaking, why use the nude as a subject intentionally for a piece of art? There's a lot of reasons. For one, I mean, the body is not a bad thing. In fact, the body is a good thing. And so right now, a lot of people tend to have this puritanistic idea that the body is somehow evil and it's bad and it is a cause for sin, and it's, you know, something to just avoid, you know, cover your eyes. Well, this is not virtue. If you can only not lust because you're not looking ever at something beautiful, then you're not virtuous. You're just, you know, maybe it's a good idea for you to hide yourself for a period, but the point is to grow in virtue, no? And the body is not an evil thing. It's a good thing. God made the human body as it is for a specific reason. Michelangelo is quoted as saying, "I wanted to depict the body in all the glory that God made it." That's a paraphrase. He said something like this when painting the Sistine Chapel. Very interestingly, just on a theological note, I mean, like if God made us in his image and likeness, then in some way, the image and likeness which is here, is in some way, mysterious way, what God looks like. Now, obviously, God the Father is pure spirit, and the Holy Spirit as well. And in the beginning, when they made us, they were all pure spirit. Kind of a fun little theological wormhole you can get yourself in, which I haven't really figured out, is that when Jesus becomes incarnate, he becomes man, he takes on flesh of human. And so he takes on the physical body of a human being, which is already made in his own image and likeness. So he takes on his own image and likeness. Do you know what I'm saying? It's like a
Yes.
weird thing that's like when Jesus becomes man, he doesn't take on our mankind, like our likeness. He takes on his own.
That is, I've never articulated it that way.
Yeah, isn't that fascinating? I don't really know what that means or if that's even correct, but like you have God and he makes man in his image and likeness, and then Jesus becomes man, which is already made in his image and likeness. So he's made in his own. Isn't that fun?
That is really fun. That is beautiful. So, okay, so let's push into the crux here. Let's push this because you're a true artist. You've been working with nudes for years. This is part of the work you're doing. People buy your work, I'm assuming. You are a working artist, praise the Lord. So what is the difference between pornography and art and genuine art where the body is unveilable, unveiled? What would you say to that?
Yeah. So there's a huge difference. I mean, 180-degree difference. And I really am sad for people who don't see that, because I have a lot of classmates and I've had a lot of classmates and I've known people who don't understand the difference between a nude depiction of a nude figure in art and it being beautiful and done well and versus pornography. And I think when you lose God, you lose that. I think when you are a materialist, atheist, and everything's material, then I can see how in that worldview that a nude painting, well done, and a pornographic video, for you, it's the same kind of thing because it's all material. But for us, it's a huge difference. And John Paul II said it's the main difference or the only difference between what makes something pornography versus art is the intention of the artist. Sort of two things. The first thing is the intention of the artist is the most important thing. Is the person attempting to portray this physical body in a manner that uplifts and upholds the dignity of the person and reveals the soul through the body, because that's what the body does. The body and only the body has the power to make the invisible visible. That's in the TOB. And so the body acts to make the invisible visible, and it reveals the person. Okay, so that's really important. So if the artist has that in mind and they're orienting themselves in this way to attempt to make their work of art reveal a person in some way or uphold the dignity of the person, then that's probably good. Like you're probably doing okay. Now the difference with pornography is that the intention is not that at all. Specifically, it's to degrade the person. I think to not uphold their dignity. And I think, I would say like for something to be porn, the intention of eliciting lust in the viewer is probably an important factor to its definition. So like you're intending to elicit lust, so that's intention as well. So you go back to the intention of the maker. Are you intending to uplift the dignity of the person? Are you intending to degrade their dignity, induce lust in the viewer? Who is it who said this? You probably know. The quote is, it's not, the problem with pornography is not that it shows too much
of the body,
but that it shows too little. So who said that?
That is, well, we do not actually know. It may actually be attributed directly to Christopher West. So that John Paul did not directly say this, but it fits within the context of what he says. So just as I'm being illuminated, I'll happily throw my 2 cents in on that one. And I fantastic. I think that intention is really important. I think just for all of us who are hearing this conversation, with Gabriel Akre, right, who has been doing sculpting for many, many years. The body itself is never pornographic. It is the way in which the body is portrayed, and oftentimes it's the way in which clothing is shown here. That because the body is good. Why? Because God created the human person. Essential to the human person is the human body. But if we ever try to rupture or separate the body from soul, then we can get ourselves into utilitarian usage of this idea that the body is meant to be used. I'm supposed to do that, and any which way I see fit, if I can, I should. And that is a violation of the dignity of the human person, of the person who would be viewed that way, but also of the person who would be, we would call the voyeur, the one who would see that image there. So this is really, really important. So I just want to make this very clear.
Before you ask the question?
Yeah.
So I just like to add, if I may, a second component to this, which, I would say what we said already kind of defines art versus porn or whatever. But, I would say like the other factor is the viewer himself or herself. So you have the artist and you have the viewer. So like you can have a work of art that's beautifully made and the artist was well intentioned, and someone who's not well formed and and probably looks at wrong things for too long, like someone who's not well formed can still lust at that. And so that's not the fault of the artist when that happens, it's the fault of the viewer, and that's up to you to work through. And at the same time, you can have something that's pornographic and a pure righteous person, a virtuous person, cannot lust after it. And it still doesn't change what the thing is, but it's very important to know that like virtue exists and you can achieve this. And even if you see a person walking down the street who is not dressed in accordance with their dignity, we could say, then you still want to, it's still possible to not lust after that, so there's a little secondary component to the discussion. So there's the intention of the artist, and there's the intention of the viewer, which sometimes can change the context of the thing that you're looking at.
Well, this is incredibly important. I recall, I don't have the exact quote at hand here, but I do have it in my book, Redeemed Vision. Mikhail Waldstein, who is the main translator for theology of the body, and said somebody could go into the Sistine Chapel and lust. And if somebody is doing that, it doesn't speak so much about the art that they are, I would argue and say they're not seeing, but more about the person there. What is going on inside of their interior world? And I think this is what's incredibly important to realize. How many of us are we cultivating our interior world? Are we being aware of, like there's an old nursery rhyme that says, be careful little eyes what you see, be careful little ears what you hear. How are we forming ourselves? What are we forming ourselves in? It really does matter, because those things, just like our issues of our the way in which we live out our body and sexuality, what we do in the privacy of our own bedroom really matters for the world, because we're going to go out into the world. We're going to experience the world. And Gabriel, what I was going to say here before you even illuminated us further was thank you for the work you're doing to bring this beauty, to invade our space, to be aggressive with this beauty, shall we say. I love that phrase. And maybe there's a book title, Being Aggressively Artistic. But I think the key word there that we want to find is this pursuit of virtue. Are we growing to become more of the human being that God has created us to be, or less? And if we don't know what that is, well, then we need to sit back and study from the masters on this. And I think this is why it's critically important. This is where the study of theology does come in, because we want to know about who God is, so we can know about ourselves. But then equally as important, the study of art, and not simply studying from a logical perspective or a mere cerebral experience, but to get involved and enter in to try to create art. I will never, ever touch the work that you do. Now, my daughter has a gift of art, has a tremendous gift. And we literally are right now, Gabriel, we are stripping her door. We're going to repaint it. We've been repainting her bedroom, and it's now completely stripped. And this is literally last night. And she's like, I kind of like it the way it is. I'm like, okay, she can see where I can't see, which is amazing. So awesome. We need you. So continue to do what you're doing on there. And I want to actually, I'd like to kind of move the conversation along a little bit here. You were trained in the Florence Academy of Art, right? You're a graduate. You were in residence there. You obviously have taken up residence in the city. How would you say that immersive experience shaped your vision and your technique of the gifts of sculpting that you have now?
So I would say maybe two things, one about the city and then one about the school. So the city itself is like I said, gorgeous, and it's just riddled with Renaissance and Baroque sculptures and paintings, even on the streets. In fact, a lot of the sculpture is outside, which is amazing. I mean, probably more inside still with museums and whatnot, but you can walk down the street and see life-size bronze and marble sculptures, and sometimes bigger than life-size marble sculptures out in the plain view. So I would just say that that's incredibly informative. Like art, I think sometimes can actively inform you. Like you can actively be looking at something and learn something from it and be bettered by it. But also it works subconsciously, and just being in an area, being in a zone that's surrounded with beautiful things, even the architecture that's just correct. Like classical architecture is based on human proportions, and it just feels more right. There's certain subconscious and subtle things that a beautiful artwork, it's like edifying, like this, instead of informative or educating, it's edifying, which is just this holistic bettering of the person. I don't know. I feel that with Florence. I feel that a lot here. I think it's just really beautiful. So you get a lot of inspiration from the classics. Secondarily, with the school that I was at, it's a very good school. And I mean, not only did I learned how to sculpt well and draw well, like just craftsmanship wise, they are really good at teaching you the craftsmanship of this is how you do it. But something that's coming to my mind, and as an answer to your question, is like something I gained there is like we work from live models, and that means that we're working from real people, not idealized people. Like there's no idealization with what we do, because they're actual people, and we don't work. And like, I don't know. So what I'm trying to say is I've grown a great appreciation for the natural beauty of the body, as to say like how the body is naturally, I think is the most beautiful version of it. And I just get sad when I see people with heavy makeup and with Botox and with body modifications, like all these things that people do to try to become more beautiful. I think makes them less beautiful. And I think that one thing that we could do is to try to retrain our vision, which is the whole point, but even further, like retrain your vision, not just to not lust, not just to, get past these normal things that we're trying to do, but within the whole mission is to grow in a love and appreciation for the natural, real human body. And so like the proportions that normal people have are not classical proportions of David. The normal features that people have are not perfect symmetry. Very few people, if anyone, has perfectly symmetrical faces. So, I mean, the Renaissance has that, and the Baroque period, they do idealize, and the classics, they idealize. They have perfect symmetry sometimes. There's a point for that. There's a reason artistically, and it's fine. I like it, but I don't know. For me, there's something that really appeals to me about the natural, authentic, asymmetrical figure.
I think you hit on a really important point. Let's expound upon this. Like you mentioned that like all the makeup or Botox or body modification is actually making them less beautiful.
I think so.
With what do you think is driving that? And what do you think is how would a person who has been steeped in that kind of culture, because it's a form of culture, it's a culture, I would say. And it's a whole other question of whether it is culture itself. But what would be the way forward if somebody's realizing, kind of reevaluating their life to kind of take a step in another direction that might be actually in accord with who they really are? What would you say?
I mean, I think I have a lot of sympathy for these people, and I'm not free myself of insecurities. I don't think anybody is, but I think that it comes from a place of being unloved or feeling unloved, not being unloved, but people feel that they're unloved or that they're unlovable, and that if they were just prettier, more beautiful, prettier, more beautiful, then that would be a way to gain love, and that maybe then that they would be lovable, and these people are already lovable and they're already loved. But if you don't feel that way, then that is something that might cause you to seek, like some things that we're talking about. And I think the solution is really the solution for every problem that you might have is to go to God Go to the Lord and understand that you are loved and that you are lovable and that you are beautiful in who you are, and you are well made. You know, the Lord does not make things poorly, we could say. And I don't know, I just feel like probably most of the roots of people's sins or wounds are founded in this, founded in this feeling of not being lovable. So yeah.
Yeah, no, I think that's critically important to realize here, that everyone is a value unto themselves, right? And I think we are encouraged by, especially our pornified culture, to wear masks.
Yeah.
Because if I let you into those spaces, you won't like what you see, and you'll reject me. And I think a lot of this comes back to, in many cases, of breakdown in marriage and family, which is supposed to be the primary unit where we are to receive our true affirmation, and to realize it doesn't matter what anyone else thinks, right? What does God think in here? And because we're not, especially you mentioned, especially you being in the art world and the in many cases the secular spaces where there's been a rejection of the transcendent, a rejection of a love for who I am. I have to make I can't accept the image that I've been made in, because there is no image I've been made in. I have to make my own image out. And I think for myself, that's exhausting, right? Oh my gosh. And that can only last for a certain amount of time before that facade is going to fall, that we're going to see cracks in those walls, right? And Humpty Dumpty is going to be starting to reveal here. And I can't put myself back together, right? So this is coming to me right now. So where would you say in your work, Gabriel, redemption plays a part?
Well, I think in the context of the culture where the body is under attack, and all the ways that we've talked about and that we can continue to talk about, pornography, body modifications, people feeling ugly. In terms of that, I think that just presenting a vision of the body which is natural and beautiful, and I mean, this is hard. I'm not saying, I'm trying to do this as an artist. Like, I'm not saying I am. The goal is to make a sculpture in a way that uplifts the dignity of the human person. And that's like a hard task. That's a big thing. I'm not going to claim that I'm doing that. I hope that I am. But I think that we need to definitely strive to change our minds about these things. So I don't know. I think that the work can. So your question is about redemption. Okay. So how does the work redeem? In that kind of cultural context, I think providing a new vision of the body is important. Sometimes the themes of my work themselves, like the thematic nature of a sculpture, like, so you have a particular work of art that tells a story or has a narrative. Sometimes I like to choose narratives whose content or the concept is about redemption. For example, like I finished a sculpture recently about of a saint called San Miniato, so Saint Miniato, and he's a Florentine saint who is here. He's venerated here in Florence, and he's got a great story. And his story for me is all about redemption and new life and the resurrection of the body, because his story is very much like Saint Denis, if you know him. But so Saint Miniato, he basically was a early Christian martyr in the year 250, living here in Florence when it was a Roman state, part of the Roman Empire, I mean. And so basically his story in a nutshell is that he gets decapitated for being a Christian. They would like to do that back then. The Roman Empire was super into decapitating Christians. So this guy gets his head cut off, and in response, he bends over and he lifts his head up and he puts it under his arm, and he walks uphill from the center of the city, outside the city, up a nearby hill. And then at the top of the hill is where he had a hermitage. So he was like a hermit. He was walking around. And so he went back up to his hermitage, and then he dies there. So he takes his head and he carries it back home, and then he dies. And then now up on that hill where he died is the church of San Miniato al Monte, which is a beautiful church venerating this early saint. So, I mean, his story for me is about the resurrection of the body, because his body was dismembered and yet he lived. Like, beautiful. That God's in control, that he decides when you live and die. You know, usually you get your head cut off, usually you die, but this guy didn't die. So I think that's very beautiful and very fun, and also is just compelling image. So I have that sculpture finished. That's, you know, you can see it if you want to, but yeah, I don't know. I think in general, presenting a new vision of the body, which is good. It's hard to do.
I thank you. Thank you. I mean, I would first say don't lose your head and keep it there. But if you happen to lose your head for legitimate and holy reasons, then let's ask Saint Miniatu for the grace to persevere in whatever God calls us to. We're not done yet, but any final thoughts that you want to leave for our viewers and listeners on the subjects of art and beauty?
Yeah, I can be quick, but there's maybe two that come to mind. So
Please.
One is kind of a follow-up to what we were talking about before. So just in terms of giving the culture a new vision of the body, which is redeemed, you know, which is beautiful, upholds the dignity of the person. I feel like it's very important that we do that. You know, I just kind of want to reiterate that we do that, because right now the culture has a monopoly on the nude figure. That's what I would say. So if the nude figure is something, then the only people who are engaging in artistic depictions of it are the secular culture, I think. You have porn, you have TV shows that have nude sex scenes in them, and movies. You even have, billboards on the streets and flyers in the malls. All this media is using the figure as its mode of operation, and it's got a monopoly over it, you know, and it's doing it poorly. And then I mean, I very, very rarely see contemporary work, whether it's in the media or new art being made, except for, you know, friends that I have and certain artists that I know of. But very few of us today are engaging in artistic representations of the nude figure and trying to do it well. So I just think it's important that we do that, because again, the nude figure is not the problem. It's how we use it. And the only people who are using it right now are not doing a good job. So that's what I would say, is that it's important for that reason. Other thought that I have is this, which, you know, we can talk about a little bit if you want to, or I can just touch on it. Like it's just coming to my head, or I want to talk about it. So one of the differences between like churches that we have here in Europe and Italy, and especially, versus churches we have in America, kind of a big difference is that there are paintings and sculptures in churches in Europe that depict a nude figure, and it's kind of scandalizing for people in America. I mean, like, do you know about that? You've been to Europe, so you've surely seen it.
Oh yes.
What do you think about this? Like,
I think it. No, this is a great lead-in. We'll go here. I mean, this is a lot.
You asked me to be controversial earlier about beauty, so let's be
even more controversial here. I mean, I think that you mentioned especially about Puritanism, and the fact that you had much of our churches were stripped of, which is our patronage, right? Having the beauty of the human body. I mean, as the most controversial thing about the Christian life or Christianity and Catholicism is the fact that God took on a human body. He was the first art model of God, shall we say, right? And so as theologians and mystics and poets began to contemplate this reality of God breaking into our reality, as John Paul would use the phrase, through the main door, through the human body, then we wanted to participate in this. To use it, you haven't used this language here, but like, this is the language of being an artisan, that we create nothing. We simply take God's stuff, right, and we are molding those things, right?
Yeah.
We want to create there. And
Yeah.
so with here, right, the fact that the fact that the human body as created by God is the greatest sign of the divine, right? Then the way in which, and if it's true that the human body itself is never pornographic, in appropriate space, in appropriate time, with appropriate catechesis, these kind of images are absolutely appropriate. Take the image, and I don't know, and you correct me, is it Florence or Venice where Michelangelo's naked Christ is found? Which is it? Where is that?
That's in Florence. Yeah,
it is right. That's right.
Yeah.
Yep.
In
And
Florence.
so,
city that I'm in, Michelangelo has a wooden carving of a corpus. It's Christ on the cross, and it's fully nude.
Yep. And I encourage everyone here to look this up. This is legit. And from what I understand about that, that was given as a thank you gift to, I think, the Franciscans, correct me if I'm wrong, as a thank you present for the many years, I think it was 4, that he was working on the Sistine Chapel ceiling, right? So anything you want to add to that?
Well, it's pretty much correct what you said. It was a thank you gift to Santo Spirito, and they might be Franciscans. I'm not sure. I think they are.
I think they are.
But I'm pretty sure from what I read is that it was a thank you gift indeed, but not for the Sistine Chapel, but because the head monk at the Santo Spirito Church for a while, maybe a year or so or more, the head monk allowed Michelangelo to secretly dissect cadavers in their morgue.
That's what it was.
And that was illegal at the time. If you dissected cadavers in the Renaissance, that was punishable by death because they saw it as desecration of the body. And I can understand that. But now we dissect cadavers for all sorts of reasons, to learn about the anatomy. And so Michelangelo wanted to dissect cadavers in order to learn the anatomy, in order to become a better artist. And the head abbot of Santo Spirito at the time understood that and allowed him to use the space for that reason and in secret. And so that's what the thank you thing was for. So in thanks, he gave him a sculpture.
Well, okay, you're blowing my mind. I've heard that part. I have never connected the two stories together. Which, the prayer that abbot must have had, the prayer life that he must have had, to be able to recognize the goodness of the human body, and even in death, right? If we're truly Catholic, right, we believe in the resurrection of the body. We believe this is good and that nothing is wasted. Everything's redeemable. And Michelangelo, again, he had to have had a significant prayer life as well of wanting to take what's given to him, what is revealed to him in a once a millennia talent. No offense to your abilities here, Gabriel. Right. Right. But to be able to bring this out of the world, but realizing I need to go to the real so that in my creation, I can be as real as possible so that those who are encountering this can enter into the transcendent reality where the invisible world is more real than the visible world that we encounter here. Right. It's all like we are on very sacred ground here, tread very carefully here, because profound mysteries are afoot here. And every single person that we encounter here is a mystery of the divine, which brings us back to this conversation, right? We go to church, not because we have to, but because I want to get in touch with God. And if it's in and through the human body, precisely because of the incarnation, that he puts us in touch with God in the most profound way, having images where the body is exposed appropriately in the space where we are to go to worship God who has come in the flesh is not just appropriate. I would humbly say it's a necessity, because it's to draw us out of the commonplace, but into what is profound mystery. I'm grappling at words here. I don't know if you want to add and extrapolate that.
Absolutely.
Beautiful. And I would add this Gabriel, it's a tragedy that this has been stripped of us. As I mentioned, the word patrimony, this is ours. So just like, for instance, the whole rainbow flag, right, which is not from that movement, is not the rainbow at all. It's either 6 or 8 colors or beyond, whereas the actual rainbow to the visible eye is 7, meaning perfection on a theological level, right? We as Catholics should be wearing the actual rainbow here, and to show off the truth of the beauty of relationships, of married love. Likewise, the beauty of the human body is meant to be demonstrated and upheld by the true patronage of the arts, which is the church. And the fact that nature abhors a vacuum, we have surrendered this. Is it any wonder why pornography and the pornography culture is flourishing and having its heyday? Because we as Catholics have walked away from this. So if it's God's, then by golly, take it back. And Gabriel, you're doing that now. So again, thank you for what you're doing.
Well, thank you. Yeah, that was a great meditation. I think that's exactly right. Yeah. So we need to step back and essentially.
We absolutely can, and we're probably gonna have to schedule another time to go even deeper on this. So I think this is beautiful. So
I think it's going to take very courageous priests to try to bring back beautiful nude figurative art into the church in America, because I think America is just it's almost not ready for it, but we need to do it anyways,
Okay, so go there. Here, and we do need to close this down here.
That's okay.
What message would you give to clergy about, especially the naked human body, especially in art, especially? Well, I'll leave it at there. I was going to give examples, but I'm going to let you speak on this. Yeah. If there's an inkling here, there's a burning in their chest that I really want to do help my flock, especially in confronting the pornified culture, and I'm convinced that art is one of the ways. How would you help them to even begin down that road with their own the people they serve?
Yeah. Well, I won't profess to have the correct answer. I'm definitely not a pastor, and I don't have a flock to look after. But if you do think that this is important, and you listen to this and you understand that, the beauty of the human body needs to be upheld, and even in churches it can be appropriate, as shown in Europe. I don't know. I think that maybe the first step towards that is not to do a big, huge nude figure painting for your church, but I would say an image that I want to try to bring back, I want to help us bring back, is the nude Christ on the cross. Michelangelo, like we said before, has this beautiful crucifix of Jesus, and it's nude, and it's gorgeous, and it's theologically correct, and it's like not offensive unless you're offended by it, in which case you need to look at yourself. So I think like that would be a great place to start for people. Maybe I know that there are certainly people who still have a hard time looking at that. But at least in the context of the church, it has a place. And then also another interesting thing to know is that in the past, the image of the Madonna of La Leche, which is a breastfeeding Madonna, was a very common image to have in churches. And there you go. And I think Christopher West told me that it was either just by happenstance or it had to be in a church. In like every church in the Renaissance times had a Madonna of La Leche, either by decree or it was just people had it. But like it was a very common image. And I think that to see a breastfeeding Madonna, I don't know, it's just something really beautiful about it. You see the woman's body as it's supposed to be. You see the woman's body as nourishing, as life-giving, as loving, and you start to hopefully we might start to see the body in a beautiful way again. I don't know. I would say maybe those two things. You should have a Madonna of Leche icon in your church, and maybe think about a nude Christ.
Bold invitation there. Aggressive there. Aggressive is the word, Gabriel. An aggressive conversation on art. And I think this is, again, if we're looking not at half measures, but actually go the whole measure. What is God calling us to? Radical times require radical steps, and radical meaning getting to the root. What is the root of true beauty and art, and bringing us into face to face with the one who took on our face, and as you illuminated here, first has our face, right? That is an astonishing reality. So Gabriel Akre, a privilege to have you. What is the best way for people to get in touch with you if they want to become one of your sponsors, become one of your muses, to purchase any of your the work and art to make sure that you continue to bring beauty to the world? How can they do that?
Yeah, so I have a website. It's gabrielakre.com. Akre spelled A-K-R-E. There you go. That's my website. It has all the images, really good images of my work. I make figurative sculpture. I can do them in bronze or marble. And so you can look through there if any of those appeal to you. Most of them are just for sale like that. But if you want to commission a work, you can also commission a sculpture. So if you have an idea for something, like you say you want a beautiful sculpture of St. Brennan the Navigator, which would be awesome. Or Margaret of Antioch or something like this, or anything. I mean, I don't just do religious things. Well, I don't just do specifically religious things. All my work is informed by this. But anyways, if you have an idea for a commission that you want a sculpture made, then we can talk about that. We can collaborate. So my website has a contact area. You can just click contact, write a message, reach out. I also have an Instagram account, is Gabriel Akre Art on Instagram. And that's a good place to find my stuff as well. And then if you're a really cool patron, you can just basically fund, if you want, you can just fund one of my own ideas that I already have, because I have plenty of ideas for beautiful works of art, and they all require money to make. So yeah, get in touch if you like. And thanks for having me, Steve. It's been a pleasure.
Truly an honor to have you, Gabriel. Thank you for the work that you're doing. And any final thoughts that you want to leave with our viewers?
No, I don't think so. Just be courageous.
Amen. 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 Well, Gabriel, hold the line after we're done here. And to all of you, I would like to thank again Gabriel Akre for sharing his wisdom, his passion for beauty, of sculpture, art in general. And remember, this is that beauty is not an escape from reality, but it's a doorway into it. It's learning how to see that with this redeemed vision of God's presence in the ordinary and the extraordinary. So if this episode has stirred something in you, I invite you, take a moment this week, stop, look, receive the beauty that surrounds you, that's all around you, especially in the people that are around you. And as always, may we learn to see things with God's eyes, with the light of faith, so that we may behold the face of Jesus Christ in all that we encounter. I am Steve Pokorny. This is the Redeemed Vision podcast. And remember, nothing is wasted. Everything is redeemable. And until next time, God bless.
The Redeemed Vision podcast is an outreach of Freedom Coaching. To learn more, check out freedom-coaching.net and follow us on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, and MeWe.